What's up, y'all? It's your boy Simply Food by TY. So look, today you guys, we're going to be going back into the kitchen yet again, honey, and we are going to be making a succulent pot roast. Now look, a pot roast ain't really a hard thing to make, but there are a few things that I have found out throughout time that people skip, and I want to make sure that I show you guys the proper way to make a pot roast. Now, this particular recipe I'm going to be doing in a crock pot. You can also do this in the oven as well, but look, the reason why people love pot roast is because they can put it in a crock pot and they can go on and live the rest of their day. So let's go into the kitchen, honey. Let's get to cooking. Make sure you wash your nasty hands, and let's cook.
Do I have your attention? 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 Do I have your attention?
Is you taking notes?
Alrighty, you guys, so let's go over the ingredients. So as you can see, I have 2 chuck roast here. I also have about 4 to 5 medium-sized red skin potatoes. I also have some carrots, A1 sauce, the thick and meaty sauce. I also have the Recipe Secrets by Lipton, Beefy Onion. I have onion powder, Montreal steak seasoning, black pepper, Lawry seasonal salt, and garlic powder. So now that we have our ingredients ready to go, let's start cooking. Alrighty, you guys, so now the time is to start seasoning up our meat. So first things first, honey, this is soul food. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know if your grandmother, your great-grandmother, or your great-grandmother ever used a measuring utensil, but I know mine didn't. So over here, I'm not doing it either. The key to soul food, honey, is just to cook with soul. Now, I know y'all probably thinking, well, TY, I can't cook, and telling me to cook with soul ain't helping. So look, all you have to do per chuck roast, use about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of each of the following seasonings. So I've just added in our onion powder, and now we're adding the black pepper. So I'm flipping it on both sides just to make sure that the meat is fully covered on both sides with the seasoning. Now, for this particular meat, they actually did a really great job of trimming the fat. There wasn't that much on there, so I decided to leave that on because I do feel like that adds additional flavor to the dish. Now, because we are using Montreal steak seasoning and we're also using Lawry seasonal salt, I would highly suggest to only use 1 tablespoon of the seasonal salt. The key is that you can always add salt. It is always difficult to take it away. So right now we're adding in that Montreal steak seasoning, which I love because that's a blend of seasonings. It has nice big pieces of kosher salt in it, which is great, and peppercorn and garlic. And to me, that just adds a little something to the dish. You know what I mean? And just make sure that you're patting your meats down with it just to make sure that the seasoning is sticking to the meat itself. The best way to make sure that your seasonings do stick to the dish, to the meat itself, is to make sure that the meat isn't sitting in a lot of juice. You know, sometimes these meats sit in these containers with a lot of blood on them. Just drain it off. You don't have to rinse it, but just drain it off so that your meat can kind of dry out a little bit. Right now, I'm adding in that seasonal salt that I was talking about. And as you can see, I'm really not adding that much because the Lipton pack that we're using, which will be both of them, that also has a lot of sodium in it as well. So you just want to take all of those things into account when you're cooking, when you're going to be using salt, especially something when a meat is going to be stewed or slow roasted. It's going to soak in a lot of those flavors. So you want to be mindful to not add too much salt. So the only thing we have left, as you can see now, is the garlic powder. That is about it. So we're going to add the garlic powder to that. Flip it over. We're going to put it on the other side as well. Just make sure that the meat is completely seasoned, and honestly, that's it. Soul food doesn't really require a lot of measuring utensils or any of that type of stuff. It's all about the look of the food, and once you kind of know what seasonings work with each other, you will never fail. Trust me, I promise you, you won't. So now that our meat is seasoned, the next step is a step that I feel people often skip, and to me, it's one of the most important, and that, my loves, is adding flour. Now, I don't mean add 3 and 4 cups of flour. We are just trying to lightly coat the entire roast with flour on all the sides. We're going to make sure that we flip it over. And we're going to add the flour to the other side as well. Now the reason why I do this is because what we're going to do in a few moments is we're going to sear this off in a really heavy and a really hot cast iron skillet. Now if you don't happen to have a cast iron skillet, that is completely fine. Whatever the heaviest pan that you have, just go on ahead and use that, but only do one at a time. I'm going to be able to add both because my cast iron skillet retains heat really well. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be searing off the meat, because that's going to infuse all of those seasonings that you've just added to your pot roast. And the good thing is that flour will also help thickening up that gravy towards the end. So right now we have this cast iron skillet that has been preheated. It is nice and hot. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in roughly about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. You don't have to add any more than that. 2 tablespoons is more than enough. That will do the trick. And like I said, if you don't have a cast iron skillet, by all means use whatever pan you have, but I would suggest browning them off one at a time, just to make sure that the meat doesn't start to steam, because once it starts to steam, then you won't get that beautiful browning on it, and that's honestly why we're doing this. As you can see, this pan is really hot. It is already sizzling, and you're only going to have to keep it on each side for roughly about 1 to 2 minutes. You don't want to go messing around with it and all of that. Let it do its thing, and then when that 1 minute is up or 2 minutes up, just flip it over, and you're going to continue to repeat this process until all sides of the roast have been browned. And when it is browned, baby, just watch. My God, on today. Now look at that. Now you know that don't make no damn sense. I mean, just look how good it looks. I mean, honestly, I know I could just eat it right now as well, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to continue browning it off, and then we're going to move on to the next step in just a few moments. So now you guys, we're going to work on getting everything ready for the crock pot. So in the bottom of your crock pot, you only need to add a half a cup of chicken stock. That is it. And we're also going to now add in 1/4 of a cup of that A1 steak sauce. To me, I feel like it adds a nice little bit of bite to the gravy at the end, so that's why I add it to the dish itself. But now that our meat is finally done browning on each side, we're just removing it from our cast iron skillet and sitting it on a plate and letting it rest for maybe 1 to 2 minutes. You don't have to do it long, and if you are in a rush, by all means, you can completely skip this step and just put it directly into your crock pot. Now, I'm going to be cooking this for roughly about 11 hours on low. If you need to cook it on high, by all means do so. So now we're going to add in our carrots. You can always add more or take some away. I know some kids don't like them at all. We've also just now added in our red skin potatoes, which y'all know is my favorite part of this entire dish. We are also now adding in 4 tablespoons of butter. So now we're just going to pop the lid on this, and like I said, this is the part where now you can just go and live the rest of your life. Let it do its thing, and everything will be completely fine, I promise.
A few moments later, a few inches later, 2 hours later, 1 eternity later.
You guys, do y'all see how beautiful that looks? So we right now are at about, probably about the 10-hour mark. So what we're going to do is now add in both packs of the Lipton beef and onion packs. I tend to add mine in towards the end within the last hour, just because I feel like if it cooks too long, it can make your gravy a bit on the bitter side, and I don't really enjoy that. So I'm adding in both packs, and then we're just simply going to mix it in just to make sure that it's all nicely incorporated. And on the back of the box, it'll say add 4 cups of water. You don't have to worry about doing any of that. You have more than enough liquid in your crock pot already. And as you guys can see, like I said, I only added a half a cup of chicken stock. All the rest of that liquid is from the meat, the potatoes, you know, the carrots. It's created its own liquid. So don't add too much water or too much chicken stock, because then it might overflow, and then it might just make a mess, and ain't nobody got time for that. You know what I mean? So now I'm letting it cook probably for about another hour. I'm going to add some parsley to it. And then after that, you guys, the dish is done. There's not much else after this point that you honestly have to do. Just put the top on it, let it go for another hour with those Lipton packs. and your dinner is complete. And now I give you Sunday dinner. My God, on today. There's your pot roast, your southern green beans, your potatoes and carrots, and your buttermilk cornbread. Honey, I got to go. I'm hungry.
Simply Food by TY.